Hey there, Smite fans, and welcome to the last week of LAN that is on the SPL schedule right now. This is Group D of the Fall Split, week number 8. And this one is probably the hardest of everything that we have looked at so far. In every other circumstance so far, in every other group, there's been one team that has overall kind of shown brighter than the rest. One team that seemed very obvious that it was going to be on top. For this one, that seems to be SOAR, but the other three teams are so close behind them that it's actually really hard to decide. There are some pretty heavy questions coming into this one, but we'll get to those when we come to those teams. As it stands for right now, we'll look at the first match of the week. SOAR versus Envy. Envy, they seem pretty confident after hearing some of the things they've said not only on Twitter, some of the things they've been saying at Hi-Rez. They're feeling pretty confident about being able to make it into the top 2. That being said, against SOAR, I don't see this one happening for them. I think SOAR is going to be able to take this first game in a 2-0 set. Now for the next one, Envy versus Denial, this kind of depends on two things. One is, how well does Envy play against SOAR? And the other one is, what Denial is showing up. Is this Denial we saw in week 1 of the SPL? Or is this Denial we saw in week 4 of the SPL? Because there was a pretty big difference in playstyle there. Denial in week 4 was still a very strong team, but it wasn't as strong as we had seen in the previous week. Because of that, I'm going to call this one as a split. This could go either way to either team, depending on how much practice they've really been doing, and obviously the LAN setting changes things. It's really hard to call, but I'm going to give this one as a split overall. I just think that they both have the ability to show up here. This one's hard. Now, a lot of people were going to look at the scores of these two teams and ask me, why is it hard? Enemy is one of the teams that has played exceptionally at LAN. Enemy, while they didn't play too well in those 4 weeks of the SPL that placed them here, have played very, very well overall in the last year. So looking at their track record, they could definitely show up here. That being said, up against SOAR, SOAR really out for blood this time, really coming out to get that first seed spot. I'm going to give this one as a 2-0 to SOAR, but Enemy could take a game. And the last game for Friday is pretty much in the same vein as the previous games. It depends on what Enemy and what Denial show up. If Denial doesn't play too well against Envy, then this could go as a split. If Denial plays extraordinarily well and just stomps on Envy, then I have a feeling that this one will go in their favor. Even with that, the other factor is, what enemy has shown up for this LAN? Is this the enemy that we saw at Worlds last year? Is this the enemy that we saw at Super Regionals last year? Or is this the enemy that we saw in the first 4 weeks of the SPL this split? It's a big question, and will only be answered today at 6:15 p.m. around there. That being said, given the two teams, I'm honestly looking at it. Denial should be the one who comes out on top. They're a little bit stronger overall right now, and I think that they're going to be able to handle this one. Again, Denial being a very strong team right now, and honestly on LAN setting probably going to be a little bit stronger, but SOAR with something out to prove. I think SOAR is going to be the one team that is definitely going to be able to take down everybody they face, and because of that I think SOAR is going to be able to take this one in a 2-0. And this one, the very last one, that is pretty much dependent on what teams show up. Envy, if they show up as strong as they seem to be thinking they are, then I could see them taking this as a 2-0. Enemy, if they show up as the team that we all know and love from before, they could take this as a 2-0. But honestly, as it is right now, it's looking like it's just going to be a split down the middle for the two, because neither of these teams seem significantly stronger. If I had to give it to anyone, it'd be Envy, but I feel like Enemy is going to have a LAN advantage because they're all relatively comfortable there. Envy, they should be pretty good, they should be pretty strong here, but I feel like it's just going to be a split. Moving back into Denial versus Enemy, this is the second time they play, so change this depending on how they play on Friday. But if everything works out the way that I see it happening, I feel like Denial, again, is going to be able to take this as a 2-0 just because they're looking a little bit stronger than Enemy right now. The last time we saw them play, Denial was definitely the stronger team of the two. Enemy, more than likely having done some work in the last few weeks, but as it stands, I just have to give it to Denial. SOAR versus Envy is pretty much the exact same way that it is earlier in the week. While Envy has potential, and if they are as strong as they've been saying they are, then they will definitely be able to do something here. But SOAR has just kind of been this behemoth in North America lately, and I feel like they're going to be able to take down Envy without too much trouble, and they should be able to take this one in another 2-0. Moving into Sunday, once again, Envy versus Enemy. I have this one listed down as a split, but it really does depend on how they play earlier in the week. Right now, I am recording this on a Thursday. You'll be seeing this on a Friday. No games have been played yet. As it stands, I'm going to give this one as a split between the two. Either one could take it. Either one could take a game. I feel like Enemy's going to be strong enough to pull one out here, but depending on how they play on Saturday will really kind of depend how this answer changes. But as it is right now, I'm going to pull this one as a split, and that's honestly just how I see it going. Denial versus Envy is, again, much like it is earlier in the week. While I think that Envy is going to be a strong team, in fact, I think Envy has potential to do something here. And I think Denial has the exact same kind of potential. Either team could really 2-0 the other, and so it's really up in the air. I want to believe that Denial could 2-0. I want to believe Envy could 2-0. But honestly, it seems like neither team would really be ready to drop 2 games, and I think this one's going to fall as a split. It depends on how they play earlier in the week, because again, they could show up as a completely different team. They've had 4 weeks between SPL games here to have improved their entirety, but as it stands right now, based on what we've seen so far, gonna call this one as a split. Again, Soar versus Denial could pretty much flip coin and probably find out which one this is gonna be. I'm gonna lean more in favor because Soar, again, is just this huge behemoth right now, really hard to take down. It's gonna happen at some point during this LAN, I can guarantee it, even though I've put nothing but 2 O's for Soar. There's no way that's gonna happen. But I don't know who's going to be the one to do it. It could be Denial, it could be Enemy, it could be Envy. This group is so close that it's insane, but for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and call it as a 2-0 for Soar. And for the last match of the week and of the group, Soar versus Enemy. Again, Enemy could have improved a lot. They could be the Enemy that we saw at Worlds last year who made it to 2nd place, but it could also be the Enemy that we saw in week 4 of the SPL, and that's just not going to be the kind of group that's going to be able to take down Soar. So as it stands for right now, I'm going to have to lean in favor of Soar, taking this one as a 2-0. And of course, not to forget the most important match of the week, at least to me, the Challenger Cup North American Finals. So I watched these teams play each other for 7 weeks in a row, and it's going to be very hype. We have Astral Authority versus Most Wanted Esports. The 2 teams are going to be pretty challenged here. I think they're going to be very close. I do think that the games are ultimately going to go in favor of Astral Authority. It's going to be a best of 3, so I think they'll be able to take it in a 2-1. But Most Wanted is not a team to be counted out, and Most Wanted has a pretty strong chance here. I just think that Astral Authority has been playing a little bit, like they've been playing together longer, and overall have a little bit more team synergy, and I think even though Most Wanted was able to earn their spot in the finals, I think ultimately they will get knocked out, and Astral Authority will be finding themselves moving on to the Gauntlet. So that's the picks for the week, when the Gauntlet inevitably gets added, hopefully, and then when Super Regionals gets added, I will be doing prediction videos for those, but until then, we are going to be taking a nice little comfortable break on prediction videos and trying to figure out who exactly is going to happen. This group is the one to not miss. The other 3 groups, you could have probably just sit back, relaxed, skipped over them, and then looked at the scores afterward, and it'd be more or less what you expected, except maybe for Sanguine. But this group right here is going to be insanely close. Literally any of these teams have potential to upset everyone else. The skill level on these teams is insanely close. Enemy could show up as the Enemy we saw at Worlds last year. This Envy squad has so much potential on them. The same thing goes for Soar, and the same thing goes for Denial. Everybody here is going to be playing at the top of their game, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle it and what they do. I expect to see some nice strategies come out, but the only way we'll be able to know what's going to happen is to watch these games later today, starting at 1 p.m. And honestly, until then, I mean, hit me up what you think's going to happen, because this is really up in the air. As it stands, though, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you the next time that we have something to do a prediction video on.